Good evening, everybody. This is Meredith Lego. My whole YouTube channel is all about the science of ascension and the expansion of consciousness. And if you're new to the channel, then welcome, first of all. And I know that I've got a lot of videos out there, but I actually would highly recommend that you actually, if you have time, go back to the beginning and actually start from the beginning, because there's a lot of foundational content that kind of like in a textbook, when you're learning in school, there's some principles that you learn in the beginning of the school year that kind of build up over time. And that's kind of what this channel does. It builds up some fundamental concepts that really start at the beginning and more unfolds over time. So the videos are relatively short, like 12 to 15 minutes, maybe a few that are in the 20-minute range. So it's not too much content to absorb a little bit of information at a time. So we'd encourage that. So again, also if you're new, so the background is that I've been able to, I'm bringing this information forward basically based on being able to channel this information from extra dimensional beings, if you will. And I've been able to tune into several different beings. But again, these are beings who, let's say, have kind of moved past physical form, if you will. And so they've achieved certain aspects of, more expanded consciousness. This is where we're evolving to as a human species. And through that, we're able to kind of learn and understand what might be next for us as a species. So in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about activation of all of our DNA. So essentially, like you, I'm sure all of us learned in school that we essentially have two strands of DNA. But what I've come to learn is that we've got actually many more strands of DNA. We've in fact got 12 strands, and the template, the etheric template that we have as a multidimensional being actually can hold many more strands than just the 12. I've even heard 48 strands, but the point is that right now we only have 2 activated. And essentially over time, so what I've been kind of learning on my journey and have shared in historic videos is that DNA has the ability to essentially accrete light to it. And in fact, it can be accreted into what's called the Christi, Cristae, I believe, the Christi within the mitochondria DNA. And that's the special DNA that is especially carried down from the mother side of your genetic line. But it's within those kind of like folds in the mitochondrial DNA that we have the ability to actually store light or photons and sort of accrete them into our DNA. And through that, we're able to carry in more information that is stored within photons. So photons have the ability to carry information codes within light. And through that, we kind of are able to accrete that light into us and accrete more information codes. And that starts to activate more strands within our DNA. Sounds complex, but kind of interesting. So in fact, we should have many more strands that are sort of quote unquote turned on. And as of now, obviously scientists are calling a lot of that junk DNA, but in fact, it can be very active DNA. And so we are in a part of recognizing that our next phase of evolution as a species is more activated DNA. And by doing so, that actually starts to activate more higher sensory perceptions that we naturally have, within the species line. And so I wanted to better understand from in the channeling session, and I think this one is coming from a collective consciousness that I've been able to tune into, essentially what it feels like or what it means to have all 12 strands of your DNA fully activated. So that's essentially the question that I asked. So the answer that I got, interestingly enough, ties a little bit to the concept of time travel. And in the last video that I did, I actually shared a story or experience that I had of going through time consciously in an out-of-body experience. Actually went back, I don't know, 55 years into the past, but I did, I kind of officially, I guess you could say, time traveled. I just didn't do it with my body. But it oddly enough gets into that content. So I thought it would be a good time to bring this video up. So their answer is, again, so the question is, what does it mean and feel like to have all 12 strands of the template, your DNA template, activated? So the answer is, there is a full embodiment and activation of all aspects of your higher self into your quote-unquote reality. In the third density plane of existence, you have more increased ability to tune into your multidimensional aspects consciously and make the connection on the learnings and the experience. You are integrated in full. By doing so, you have cleared and healed all aspects of heredity and personal embodiment energy blockages and have achieved a 0 point to eliminate cause and effect energy imbalances. The states of matter, or wave form of matter, are directed by conscious thought, which means that you can direct your experience of reality, of matter, in different ways. So I think to pause right there, so there was something interesting that essentially they said. Let me see if I can find where it is. Yeah, so they talked about basically activating aspects of your higher self into reality. And there was a video I did in the past. I can't actually remember which one it is, but oh, no, it's basically about, I think it is, yeah, I know which one it is. I don't know what it's called, but I'll include it in the comments section. So essentially, what I learned in a channeling session with the same group is that during the ascension process, we are essentially both ascending and descending. So in many ways, we're consciously ascending because we're getting more access into our multidimensionally self, and we're consciously doing it, like me, Meredith Lego, the ego, going through this experience is very well aware of what's happening and the changes that are going on in my body, the changes that are happening with higher sensory perspectives. I can think about things that are going on in the world around me and have different points of view or perspectives, I guess you could say, based upon this kind of awakening journey that I've been going on. At the same time, our higher self, so our higher stations of identity at future points in time, are also descending into the physical form. So it's like your current station of identity, the person that you are now in this incarnation, is ascending and gaining more information, more enlightenment, but at the same time, your higher stations of identity are descending, and together they come together into kind of one plane of existence. So they talk about the fact that when you're doing that, when it feels like having more of your DNA activated, there's a full embodiment and activation of all aspects of your higher self into your reality, in other words. So you're descending that kind of the higher self, the higher mental bodies into your reality. And then they talk about essentially about the achievement of 0 point to eliminate cause, effect, energy imbalances. And there was actually a video that I did, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that talked about the law of cause and effect. So would encourage you to watch that. And then they mentioned that the states of matter, or wave form of matter, are directed by conscious thought to essentially create the experience of the reality that you see. So there's been many experiments that have been done on light. I believe it was light, that essentially, some thought it would be kind of structured light in a wave, if you like a stream of light versus like an individual photon. But what happens is that it depends upon the observer, and their own perspectives of what was going to go on with the light to dictate what essentially was going to happen with the light. So the observer effect can dictate the outcome of certain experiments. So they go on to say that your consciousness travels through time and by connecting more grids within the DNA. The conscious intersections or shifting across time is possible. So let me repeat that again. Your consciousness travels through time, and by connecting more grids within the DNA, the conscious intersections or shifting across time is possible. So that's a complex sentence, but if you kind of think about it, we're consciously moving about our day, and by doing that, we move through time. So time is nothing more than different kind of points. It's like 4 dimensions. You know, you've got height, what is it? Height, length, width, and then you've got time. So the movement through time. So, you know, in the course of watching this video, your consciousness has moved through time, through linear time. And what they're saying is that by connecting more grids or strands within your DNA, the conscious intersections or shifting across time is possible. So by this, I'm interpreting the fact that you actually can start to shift more across time, not just within linear time. And so what I described in the very last video that I did on my time travel experience, if you will, is that I shifted across time. So they say here that you consciously start to experience no time. However, if you wish, you can direct your consciousness to a specific space-time vector intentionally and consciously with full control. So another way to think about that is that, you know, kind of what I described in the last video that I did, I went out of body and I ended up going to a point in time where there was a major timeline shift. And that's what I had actually intended to do with that meditation. But there's been other situations where I have intended to go to certain time-space vectors consciously, almost in a remote viewing fashion, and have gone there and sort of witnessed or observed what has gone on. So you can consciously direct yourself to a space-time vector, and you know, consciously you are in control. Now, if you kind of think about it, another way that I guess I can interpret this statement is that, you know, let's say that there's a portion of my higher self that's sort of outside of time, if you will, and you're essentially choosing to direct your energy or your focus on a certain point in time along the evolution of your historic experiences. You direct that energy, a very focused, very controlled energy, into that one point in time, then poof, you know, you get the experience of being in the body of, let's say, myself in this point of time. So that's another way to think about it. Possibly another way to think about it that just hit me is like, and I kind of mentioned this in the last video, you know, the idea of virtual reality. Well, I don't necessarily prescribe to that. But, you know, let's say that I'm, you know, putting on a virtual reality headset and, you know, I'm moving into a character that's in a certain game that is taking place in a certain time. You know, essentially I've directed my energy, my attention, my focus into that character in that point in time. But I've done it consciously. They go on to say that you are and know who you are. You know yourself as source, all that is, with no separation from any other energy. You are. So that's really all that I was able to kind of pick up in that particular channeling session. But I think there was a lot of interesting things packed in that first paragraph around the 12 strands of DNA, and I'm going to continue to explore that because in the series that I've been doing, there's a lot of interesting stuff that has come about in terms of changes that are undergoing, that our body is undergoing, our DNA is undergoing, you know, during this particular point in history. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, And at the time of the posting of this video, it would probably be coming up on New Year's, and that you continue to have an absolutely wonderful New Year. And with that, I will see you in future videos. Thanks very much. Bye.